Hello, well, this is Dr. Dave Mastak talking to you about reciprocity.com. It is a sharing economy proofreading platform that I'm trying to build. And I'm a professor of innovation. I'm trying to create this particular platform in order for you to be able to get all of the feedback, skills, and wonder you desire to be able to become a very prolific writer and scholar along the way. So in this particular video, I really wanted to talk about what is organizational memory and what do you do with organizational memory. So I study, I'm a professor of innovation. I study organizational learning, and one sort of component of that is organizational memory. So what exactly is that? In this particular video, I'm going to get into what that is. Why is why is it useful, and why is it kind of difficult sometimes in terms of how we understand organizational memory, and then thinking about maybe some possible mechanisms or possible ways that you can actually increase organizational memory in your organization to make it more effective. So what exactly is organizational memory? Well, this is knowledge that is contained within the organization, and it's all of the knowledge based on past experiences that have been accumulated by the organization and its members or managers or whoever is in the organization. Now, organizational memory is based on past experiences. It's acquired. It's all of the stuff. It's all of the experiences that are acquired and accumulated throughout the organization's history, right? So whenever and if you think about how managers actually make decisions, so it might be a manager makes a particular decision, they perform an action based on that decision, they get some outcomes from that decision and that action. So the outcomes might be, was the thing that they're doing successful? Was it not successful? So, for example, did they do some sort of R&D project? Did they do some sort of marketing campaign? Now, was that successful? If it was successful, then it's recorded as a success and experiences for the organization, and as well as they might detail how they might actually got to that particular success. All of those are recorded in some parts of the organization, and then it's recalled in the future to help them drive success in the future. Now, those ones that were sort of failures, it depends on sort of the degree of failure. If it was kind of a mild one, then that particular marketing project, that R&D project, that management structure might be just filed as, let's not do that again. But if it was a really catastrophic one, they might react very strongly to that if it sort of caused a sort of a near survival problem. So, for example, it threatened bankruptcy in the organization, then that is going to be imprinted within the organization's memory for a very, very, very long time. Now, you can imagine in these kind of cases, there's both sort of the information that's recorded within the organization in databases, for example, and as well as the stories and narratives that are discussed through managers and within the culture that are also recorded. So it's not just about information that's recorded and acquired and put into databases, for example, as we might think of in terms of management information systems, right? But it's also all of the stuff that's contained within the culture of the organization. It's also contained within the manager's individual memories of things that they remembered in the past, all those kind of things. And all of that stuff is bundled together, and that's what we might call organizational memory. Now, it's really important to note that it's not just information, and sometimes it's really, really difficult to acquire the right memories at the right time. So what you want to do with storing organizational memory, you can imagine it's sort of part of the culture that you have. It's part of the decision-making structures that you have. What you want to do is be able to recall those at the appropriate time so that you can make effective decisions in the future. Now, it's really difficult to do that kind of stuff a lot of times, right, to recall at the appropriate time. And it's not necessarily, you don't want to recall it's not just stuff that's stored in a database. In fact, a lot of the stuff that's just stored in a database is pretty well known at this point that we just like to store information. We as organizations, we as managers, as people, we just love to store information within the organization. We have a tendency, it's sort of a rational, it makes rational sense to store as much information as possible. But we rarely analyze that data. We rarely go and try to make sense of that. Now, there's been in the last few years sort of calls for that in terms of big data, in terms of storing as much data as you possibly can, and then figuring out having tools to analyze that data, except where it's very expensive, it's very costly to do that. And that's only sort of gathering a little tip of the iceberg of all of this stuff that goes on within the organization. You want to capture, maybe the information that's stored within the culture, maybe it's stored within the decision-making structure. All of that stuff's really important as well. So, what you want to do in terms of improving organizational memory and using it effectively is try to figure out the knowledge that is important to your organization, whatever that is. Maybe you want to focus on the key performance indicators that you have, and then look at the knowledge that flows into those key performance indicators. And then once you sort of understand what knowledge is important for these key performance indicators, whatever it is, maybe it's return on assets, maybe it's return on innovation, whatever it is, all these different key performance indicators, you want to go and acquire knowledge that is going to be helpful for those key performance indicators. And then you want to develop mechanisms to be able to acquire that knowledge as much as possible. Now, those mechanisms are not just about databases, right? You want to move away from that sort of thought there. Maybe it is creating stories and a culture that can allow you to acquire that information that's going to be very helpful for those key performance indicators. Maybe it's telling, and stories are really, really effective in terms of creating this narrative within your organization. In fact, we as human beings, we're storytellers, right? That's how if you think about how we evolved over thousands of years, we told stories by the campfires late at night, and that's how we remembered things, these sort of folklores and stuff like that. It's all told in stories and narratives, and those stick with people for a long time. So if you can create stories and maybe kind of not quite jingles or anything like that, but maybe a mission or a vision that's really clear and easy to understand that people can get very quickly, that can be a really important part of your organizational memory in terms of improving and developing based on that organizational memory, right? And then you want to make sure that once you have that, you sort of thought about that, you start getting buy-in from as many managers as possible. It's not just about senior level managers, but it is buy-in from many different levels, right? It might be from the lowest levels in your organization to the very senior levels, and trying to get buy-in into those particular stories in terms of gathering that knowledge and using that knowledge as much as possible to reflect on those key performance indicators, the stuff that you want to improve. And then over time, what you should be doing is repeatedly doing this over time, right? So you find out what's effective, you look at those key performance indicators, you find out what's effective in terms of storing the knowledge, and then you get buy-in to improve that storage of that knowledge, and then you keep going forward with that. And I would just recommend with doing stuff that's very simple at the beginning to get that buy-in. Maybe it is that you start telling a story or some sort of narrative that people can sort of buy in and understand with what you're doing, and that's going to catch on, and you can keep building with that and keep building on those particular stories, and maybe you eventually start going to making larger and larger investments where you start gathering, actually getting databases and stuff like that to sort of fit that story. So that's what I would recommend in terms of how to improve over time and developing that, particularly as you grow in your organization. That's going to be really important. So if you like these videos, make sure you do the old thumbs up with this one. Leave comments if you have anything, and as well as watch some of the older videos. I do try to be as helpful as possible, and I'm all doing this to basically help out other people as much as I possibly can. That's the whole scheme of the Reciprocity Project. The E is spelled with a 3. And that's really what I'm trying to do, is try to be as helpful and useful as possible, so that other people can learn and develop and gain feedback as much as they possibly can, as they become amazing. So thank you so much. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.